Samsung's next big foldable leak is stirring up serious hype, and not just because of rumored upgrades or design tweaks. This time, the conversation is all about branding, positioning, and the bigger strategy Samsung might be building to stay ahead of Apple. A new leak suggests Samsung could be preparing a device called the Galaxy Z Fold 8 Ultra, and if that instantly makes you think that's a direct response to Apple's rumored iPhone Ultra Foldable, you're probably right. But the real surprise is this. The Galaxy Z Fold 8 Ultra might not be the foldable everyone expects it to be. For months, insiders have been pointing toward Apple working on its first foldable iPhone, allegedly branded as the iPhone Ultra. The name alone is eye-catching because Apple usually keeps branding simple. But the bigger story isn't the label, it's the form factor. Apple is expected to use a wider foldable design, a shape we've already seen on Android. Think of devices like the Oppo Find N, and more famously, the original Google Pixel Fold. That wider body changes everything. It makes the outer screen feel like a normal phone instead of a tall, narrow remote control style display, and it gives the inner display a more balanced, tablet-like shape that can be easier to use for reading, multitasking, and media. That wider foldable style wasn't a flawless success on Android, though. A big reason it struggled was software. Many apps simply weren't optimized for wider layouts, leading to awkward scaling and inconsistent experiences. Still, the idea never truly disappeared. If anything, it stayed in the background, waiting for the right moment. And now, if Apple really is preparing a wider foldable iPhone Ultra, the industry looks ready to give that design a second chance, this time with better optimization and more mainstream attention. Naturally, Samsung has been rumored to be developing its own wide foldable, something clearly designed to counter Apple's future move before Apple even arrives. In leaks and fan discussions, that Samsung device has commonly been referred to as the Galaxy Z Fold 8 Wide. It's a name that sounds believable, but it also feels a little rough, like a working title that somehow became official in the rumor world because nobody had anything better to call it. But now, according to well-known leaker Ice Universe, the situation may be even more confusing than expected. The new claim is that Samsung will introduce a Galaxy Z Fold 8 Ultra next year. However, instead of that Ultra name being reserved for the new wider iPhone-style foldable, it may actually be used as a rebrand of what we assumed would be the standard Galaxy Z Fold 8. In other words, Samsung's next lineup could look like this. The phone we expected to be the regular Galaxy Z Fold 8 might instead launch as the Galaxy Z Fold 8 Ultra. The wider model designed to compete with Apple might not get the Ultra name at all and could be branded under a completely different label on paper that feels backwards. If Samsung is building a new form factor specifically to answer Apple's rumored iPhone Ultra Foldable, logic says the wide, Apple-targeting device should be the Ultra. That would create an easy story. Apple has an iPhone Ultra. Samsung responds with a Galaxy Z Fold Ultra, both in a similar wider style. Simple, clear, competitive. But there's one reason this rumored branding swap might actually make sense: hardware expectations and customer perception. If the current leaks are accurate, the rumored wide foldable could come with 2 cameras and a 4800 mAh battery, while the more traditional Fold 8 design could offer 3 cameras and a 5000 mAh battery. In that scenario, calling the wide phone an Ultra could be a marketing mistake. Buyers would likely expect the Ultra model to have the best of everything: more cameras, better zoom, stronger sensors, bigger battery, and overall the most premium setup. If Samsung labels the wide model Ultra, while it has fewer cameras and a smaller battery, it risks making the Ultra branding feel confusing or even meaningless. So from Samsung's perspective, the thinking might be, if anything deserves the Ultra label, it should be the Fold model with the stronger camera setup and larger battery, the one that feels like the real flagship upgrade, not the experimental form factor shift. That approach could help Samsung avoid a situation where customers walk into a store, see Ultra, and assume it's the best model, only to later discover it's missing features that the standard Fold version has. Branding is about expectations, and Samsung can't afford to make the Ultra name feel like a gimmick. But even with that logic, there's still a big issue. The word Ultra carries heavy weight in Samsung's ecosystem. People associate Ultra with devices like the Galaxy S Ultra line, phones known for pushing top-tier camera systems, massive batteries, and the absolute highest-end features Samsung offers. If Samsung releases a Galaxy Z Fold 8 Ultra that doesn't deliver an ultra-level experience in cameras, battery, durability, and overall performance, many people will see it as nothing more than a label upgrade rather than a true hardware leap. And that leads to the real question Samsung would have to answer. If the Ultra name goes to the standard Fold design, what does Samsung call the wider foldable? Because a wide foldable meant to challenge Apple can't feel like a side project. It needs a name that sounds premium, purposeful, and important, something that tells customers, this is Samsung's answer to Apple's next big thing. If Apple really does enter the foldable market with an iPhone Ultra using a wider design, Samsung's naming strategy won't just be marketing, it'll shape public perception of which company is leading and which company is reacting. So what do you think? Should Samsung reserve the Ultra branding for the most powerful fold, even if it's basically the traditional form factor? Or should the Ultra label belong to the wider model specifically built to go head-to-head with Apple's rumored iPhone Ultra Foldable?